Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone to pass on our condolences to the member who's just spoken. What we are dealing with here is a failure of leadership, not the military that served that leadership. We should never confuse the two. Both Western and Afghan forces have served with great courage and are responsible for the successes that were achieved in the 20 years. It is a failure to understand Afghanistan and how the Taliban capitalised on UK and US forces' counterinsurgency approaches and the corruption of tribal leadership. That Pashtun saying, "You have all the watches, we have all the time," reflects the speed with which the Taliban have acted. They took their first city just 12 days ago, and now they have Kabul. But just as this was not inevitable, or indeed unexpected, so it's not inevitable that all we can do is despair. The Taliban said on Monday those who worked with foreign forces have nothing to fear as long as they show remorse. Don't tell them that they're cowards or they should stay. Help them get out. The bureaucracy our interpreters and support staff and their families face must not be the reason they lose their lives. I urge the government to talk to the current and former servicemen and women who know these people, rather than asking people about paperwork and bureaucracy and biometric tests, because that's what's keeping people in the Kabul airport right now. And yes, the airport matters, but people have got to get through the checkpoints to get to Kabul. So we need an extraction plan for everyone. And we need to be clear on who we owe a duty to, not just the interpreters, but also those women who set up schools, the people who stood up when we asked them to work in the embassies and in the NGOs. Resettlement scheme is very welcome, but resettling from where and how? Because wars and persecution don't work to a timetable for paperwork. Like many, I have families in Walthamstow desperate. An interpreter for the UK whose dad did the same job for the Americans. The Taliban are looking for them both. Another who is here but his disabled family members are in Kabul and at risk because he helped the MOD. Are we comfortable that mum or dad or brother or sister is fair game for the Taliban as punishment? Of course we need family reunion to be part of a settlement scheme. Or the family who walk for 4 hours to get to the embassy but have an Afghan mother. Are we really going to separate them? Or the man who's been trying to get his wife out since 2018 but because of COVID had her visa delayed? Numbers matter less than need. We need to reject this artificial distinction between resettlement and asylum. I'm pleased to hear the Prime Minister commit not to send people back, but I hope the Home Secretary was listening, because it's the same ministers who proudly boast about stopping boats who forget to tell you that it's Afghans on those boats. It's people who have been fleeing this situation. Instead of posturing, we need to challenge Macron and their European partners to work with them to make sure that everybody does their fair share to help. And we need to get ahead of this crisis because at the moment we're always playing catch-up. President Biden may not have spoken to other world leaders since the fall of Kabul, so I'm pleased to hear that the Prime Minister is, because we need to get agreement via the UN and NATO that if the Taliban provide a safe haven for Al-Qaeda or ISIS, we will not stand for it. And we need assurances from our counterparts in China and Russia they will not veto action at the Security Council either. And yes, this is a humanitarian disaster, but it's also a human rights one. Because equality isn't just being able to leave the house alone. Those Afghan women who are doctors, who are judges, who are politicians, need us to do more than wring our hands. We've already heard that girls are being banned from school and being forced into marriages. As the quote is, the Taliban talk nice during the day and disappear people at night. We must also say, this is not Islam. Islam is not the reason why people are clinging to planes to save their lives. That is brutalism and terrorism, and we must not let people divide ourselves here or overseas in that fight for those values. There may have been a failure of leadership so far, but that doesn't have to continue. We work together.